indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is being live streamed by Chelmsford Telemedia and posted to the CPS website for interested community members to access and watch. In-person public participation will be taking place tonight in accordance with social distancing and safety protocols established by the Chelmsford School Committee Public Participation Guidelines. Anyone interested in speaking during the public input portion of the meeting who's notified the superintendent's office of the desire to speak has been provided with these guidelines assigned a time to attend the meeting to speak. If anyone watching this meeting live has questions or comments to share, they're encouraged to email one of us during the meeting. We'll read their questions or comments during our second public input session at the end of the meeting. So welcome to this meeting of the Chelmsford School Committee. I'd like to start off the meeting by congratulating both John and Maria on their re-election to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure I speak for the rest of the committee in saying we look forward to continuing to work with you for the next couple of years. So it's been a few weeks since we last met, so we have a pretty full agenda. So we'll get started with our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our meeting on March 15th.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from March 15th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, all right, any corrections? Okay, all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. All right, next up, we have our CHS student representative.
All right, so we are entering the fourth quarter and wrapping up the year. Some seniors are gone for their internships currently, and they're working with staff to check in and receive credit for it. And for those of us who are not gone, the seniors' last day is about 4 weeks after April break. And not that there's a countdown, but it's 22 school days away.
Who's counting, right?
The high school is currently in the accreditation process. And last week, there were people from NEASC coming in, and they were interviewing students, parents, teachers, administrators, and support staff. And so there will be a report of the findings sometime in the next 45 days. On Thursday, the Melting Pot will be putting on their annual International Lunch for Teachers. I believe this is the first time they've had it since before COVID, so I know they're all very excited for it. There are a lot of student volunteers working that day, so it's going to be pretty fun. The 2023 class officer elections were just held, and the results are, for president, it will be Marty Coleman. Vice President will be Jonah Abraham, Secretary will be Julia Williams, and Treasurer will be Josh Boot. So congratulations to all of them. The Theater Guild won regionals for their festival play recently. They put on Faith and Despondency. And so congratulations to them. I know a lot of teams won awards, including the costume team, I know off the top of my head. So that's very exciting. And finally, students are very excited for April break next week.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, anyone have any good news they want to share?
You want to go first? You want to go first?
No, go ahead. We're sharing good news this
We're sharing good news. So I just wanted to say, last week was some really excellent news for the district. Representative Lori Trahan's office and staff, I think everybody in Chelmsford would like to thank them for their hard work. And really to the hard work of Bill Silver, who wrote the grant to get this kind of money. And we ended up getting over $820,000 in ARPA funds, which really just clears up some school choice funds that we could use for things we'd like. But it also has a practical effect of giving us 2,200 new laptops, as well as 70 access points, which for us, during COVID, we figured out access equals equity, right? So there was a lot of people that didn't necessarily have the access they need. So this grant gives us a lot of flexibility in the budget to do new things, and it also gives kids that need access. And we're just incredibly grateful for the teamwork between Representative Lori Trahan's office and the town of Chelmsford. So that's all. Good news. Yay.
Can I just add
Yep,
in?
absolutely.
Faith and Despondency, I'm just going to mention the other ones. Darius, Sachi, Emily, and Lila all won acting awards, which was amazing. And yes, costumes team did, but also stage. They won an award for stage. It was really an amazing performance. The other thing I wanted to mention was you guys had the leadership conference, which really I thought was wonderful, and you had over 150 people participating in it. It was amazing to see that, so congratulations.
All right, anyone else have any good news they want to share?
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I was just going to mention, I was asked to moderate one of the panels for the Student Leadership Conference, and I thought the kids were incredibly engaged. I think everyone did a really nice job at the event. I had a panel with Town Manager Cohen, State Representative Tammy Govea, State Representative Vanna Howard, one of our police officers in town, Nick Thayer, who's also one of the lacrosse coaches, so he had a tie-in with the kids. and then State Representative, now also City Manager, Tom Golden from Lowell. And it was a great panel. I thought what's that?
Cohen.
Yep, yeah, Town Manager Cohen was on the panel too, but I thought it was great. The venue was very nice. I thought the speakers did an excellent job, as they usually do, but even the student questions and commentary I thought was great along the way, so really a super job from the students at the high school for pulling that off. Very professionally done, very well done. Happy to have been asked and be a part of that, so that was an excellent event.
Great. Okay, anyone else have any good news?
Donna and I went this past Saturday to South Rose International Fair as students represented various countries, and there were presentations afterwards with dancing and singing and the poetry reading, and it was a wonderful time. It was all grades, K through 4. It was a huge turnout, and it was really enjoyable. You could tell that the students put a great deal of time and effort into it, with their parents' help.
Absolutely. I can't say enough positive things about, the whole event. And what was really neat is it just highlighted the diversity that we have in our community, and the fact that, that these kids could be there and speak to, their countries of origin or their families' countries of origin, and do as great a job as they did was really, quite remarkable. So if it comes up again, I think Harrington does one as well.
Yes.
I really highly recommend that people attend because it's fascinating. It really is.
There was talk at one time of making it district-wide.
That's I would think that would be a great idea, to tell you the truth.
Would be
Really
nice.
would.
Okay, anyone have anything else? Okay. All right, so we're now to our first public input session. We have one registered speaker for tonight. For those speaking tonight, I would ask you to try to limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. Remember, this comment period is for the items listed on tonight's agenda. Also, please keep in mind that we will not be responding directly to your comments during this part of the meeting, but we'll try to address them when we get to that item in the agenda. So I'll call up our one speaker, Ms. McDonald, if you'd come up. If you could just give your name and address for the record, and then...
Melissa McDonald, 6 Colonial Terrace, Chelmsford. I just wanted to speak a little bit tonight about, I know I've come here before and you're tired of seeing me, but I just wanted to speak a little bit about Ireti. As many of you guys know, it's an enrichment program that we're using throughout Chelmsford Public Schools. And my worry is just, I just feel like it's becoming this very kind of big thing. I know that with my own students, my own children, that is, we went from having kind of to maybe do Ireti, a handful of minutes a week, to now mandating 45 to now 60 minutes a week. And it's just the kids are on the computer doing it. For parents like myself who are trying to keep the kids kind of off the screens and kind of outside, trying to do more, hands-on kind of face-to-face interaction stuff, it's troubling because many of the kids perceive it as busy work. I've kind of verbally surveyed different teachers and different students within the district, and I haven't heard a good thing about it. I know that last time I was here, I asked if you guys would mind kind of surveying your teachers, either anonymously or just to kind of find out what their thoughts were on this. I think for the most part, what I'm hearing is teachers feel like because they're not able to see the questions and to see what has been marked wrong, they're feeling very disconnected with it, and then it's difficult for them to then use the data moving forward to change their instruction. Dr. Lang, when I spoke to you last fall about it on the phone, you were nice enough to spend a bunch of time with me kind of talking it through, and mentioned that the MCAS is a standardized mandated test that all of our students have to take. But the diagnostic, you felt like gave you kind of MCAS gave you an after the fact picture diagnostically of how the kids were doing, and you felt that Ireti kind of gave you more of a right now, so that teachers could kind of use it in the beginning to plan their lessons, to maybe group students differently. And to that I say, I feel like we're not giving our teachers enough credit. Teachers are great at teaching. We have this wonderful workforce here. They speak to one another. They know their own assessments. They know how their students are doing. And so I really feel like to add one more testing module to our students kind of over overwhelming plate already is just really causing a lot of stress and unneeded anxiety. We're coming off a couple of years where, again, anxiety was kind of reached a pinnacle level. I know that Chelmsford has spent many years, close to a decade, working with social and emotional well-being. And I really feel like adding another diagnostic test, in fact, one that is done in the spring, the fall, the winter, and the spring now, is just really adding too much to our students' plate. You mentioned access equals equity. And again, Ireti doesn't have a speak-to-text feature, which is really kind of crippling a lot of our students who might need, who might be dyslexic or who might be cognitively impaired and need that extra access. I know for my own children, we find it very frustrating and very rough to get through. And I also know that just from polling some different teachers, that now they're finding that it's mentioned the number of minutes that their students are calculating or chiming in for Ireti is now being mentioned in their evaluations, which seems really inappropriate, and I'm not sure that's allowable, but it is happening. And so I wanted to bring it here because I know it is a top-down level kind of thing. It's not, our teachers aren't assigning it. They're being mandated by their curriculum coordinators and folks at the higher level. And I really feel like if you're going to continue with it, I would love to see teachers being pulled, students being pulled, parents being pulled, because this really is a source of frustration and contention amongst the public. And so that's just kind of what I would like to come here and say, especially where assessment is on the agenda. I know that this is a pay-for service. And again, I would just love to see something else. Not a fan of Ireti. So I appreciate you letting me take the time, and that's that.
Great. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that's it. We just had one. Okay.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
just have that one registered speaker for public comment, so we'll move into new business on the agenda this evening. As we did allude to before, just congratulations to John and Maria for the reelection. It's going to be good to work with you for the next number of years. One of the things that the school committee does after we have an election is kind of reconstitute the body. We need to go through a process to elect a chairperson for the year, a vice chair, and then a secretary. And at this point, I help kind of elect the chair, and then once the chair is seated, they'll take over and elect the vice chair and the secretary. So the way this would work, we would just open it up to nominations for anyone on the group who would like to nominate someone to serve as the chair. They can do that. We'll open nominations, accept 1, 2, however many names, and then we'll just go around the room, and it will be a voice vote for who you elect as chair. And then once the chair is seated, we'll turn the meeting over to that individual, and they will elect a vice chair and then a secretary. So at this point, I would open it up for nominations for the chair, and I'd recognize Mr. Moses.
I nominate Donna Newcomb for chairwoman. Chairperson?
Second.
Yep. Well, at this point, we just have to take nominations. So is there anyone else who would want to nominate anyone for chair? All right. Having no nominations, we'll just go around the room and just do a voice vote. We won't start with you. Mr. King,
My choice is what, Donna?
so that's what you have to choose.
Donna.
Maria?
Yay, Donna.
Donna.
Jeff?
Yes.
Oh, you got to say it.
Say Donna.
So Donna Newcomb has been elected the chair for the next committee, and I will now turn it over to you to.
Congratulations, Donna.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. As vice chair.
Do you have to switch now, or do you have to?
No.
wait?
We talked about it.
At this time, I would like to open up the nominations for school committee vice chairperson.
I'll nominate Jeff Doherty.
Is there any other nomination? Okay, at this point then, we'll take a vote.
Jeff.
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 Jeff. Okay, thank you. And at this time, I will open it up for nominations for school committee secretary.
I nominate Dennis King as secretary.
All right, any other nominations?
I've always wanted to do that.
All right, let's vote. Maria?
Dennis.
Dennis.
Dennis?
Me.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you, Edward.
Is that Dennis?
Welcome back to secretary.
Yeah, thanks.
Back to the
Full
bottom.
circle.
It goes full circle, it does. Well, congratulate everyone.
Thank you. And before we go on, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dennis, John, and Jeff for their leadership over this last year. It was certainly a trying year with everything that we had to deal with COVID. And it could have been very divisive. It could have really fractured this committee because of all of the stress and the number of issues that we had to deal with. And I really believe it was with the leadership of this committee that we were able to navigate that smoothly as I think any district could. And I really want to thank you all for your guidance through that time. I think it was remarkable what we were able to do. So thank you. All right, next up.
All right. Very excited tonight to have one of our schools present for us. So we'll recognize at this point, this is Center Elementary School, and we have our principal, Diana Fulreader, and our assistant principal, Donna Romabono, with us, with some students that seem like they're very eager to get started. And you can introduce Mr. McGillicuddy, but please come on up to the table. This is, again, kind of continuing with what I feel is the most fun parts of the meeting, getting to hear from one of our schools around some of the work that they're doing on academics, or social emotional learning and enrichment and whatnot. So we have Diana and Donna here tonight to talk a little bit about Center School and spotlight some of the work that's happening there. So I will turn it over to you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having us. I have to say, it's a pleasure to be here in person and have our families here with us. I think we're the first people to bring students with us, or yes?
Yeah.
So you're
Yes,
in
yeah.
for a treat. We're going to make you wait until the end of our presentation to enjoy some of their musical talents. And we'll introduce Mr. McGillicuddy, our new music teacher, more in a bit, but we'll get started with a few other things that we've been focusing on this year as well. Yes. So if this quote looks familiar to you, it should. This is the same quote we used last year. We do continue to focus on equity, inclusivity, and culturally responsive education, creating an inclusive environment at Center. And it's definitely a journey. It's not something that's one and done. So we wanted to follow up and share some of the things that we've been doing since last year to create an inclusive environment at Center School. Some of the things that we've been doing, our school council will highlight some of those things. We've been doing some grade level meetings, which we'll talk about. We'll focus on some class assignments. And finally, how we're celebrating our cultures, different variety of cultures. As you mentioned, we have a very diverse community, and how we're celebrating those through the arts, and what we have planned to do that later in the year as well. So first of all, our school council is continuing this work, and started last year with a book study, and this year we really wanted to get input from our families, so we created a survey, and even just having it translated into the different languages that are represented in our school was a very educational process. I can't remember how many different languages, like 30-something represented.
Yeah, could be located on,
And then through X2 identified that 7 people request documents in different languages. So we were able to get them translated into those languages. And to date, we just sent it out a week and a half ago, and we already have about 130 responses. So we're really eager to take a look at that with our school council, and we'll likely have a parent forum to talk about the results, and hopefully that will drive our work next year to see what steps we can take.
big shout out to our tech department, because
Yes.
when we translated that, because it was a Google survey doc, you could translate part of it, but it would not translate the whole thing. So especially Eileen Young came over and worked with us, and we got all of them. We had 3 different tabs open to make it work. And the best part about it was when you submit it in another language, because I did it in another language, I saw immediately the responses go back in English.
Great.
Yep.
That's been great.
Yeah, so another thing that we've been doing was just rich grade level tech sets focused on DEI through all of the great curriculum, FBC Classroom. there are things that have been highlighted that our staff members are doing. So in the next slide, you will see this is a first grade text set that just happened to be all on diversity. And in the next slide, what you'll see is Mrs. Dooley's first grade class, and they did balanced literacy work related to that text set. And here's the picture right here, yeah. So if you look at that, balanced literacy, right? They read the book. They were talking about the different text sets. After that, they worked collaboratively in partners to do all their little images in their writing, similarities, differences, and embracing everything that entails. The next slide, yeah, and this was related to a fourth grade text set all on poetry. So in this fourth grade class, they did poetry, and it was all on the best parts of them, and it's beautiful. They were all hung up all in that, our fourth grade pods. Yep.
And just one other
Yeah.
thing about the curriculum, we're finding with the PD that teachers have been receiving the last couple of years around DEI, their comfort level in having discussions about differences and similarities and learning about each other has risen. So you're seeing more of these activities in classes, which is wonderful. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm used to it. One of our center goals is to always provide a positive environment for all of our students in creating a sense of helping all students belong and establish relationships. And one of the ways we had done this year was to create grade level meetings. So at the beginning of the year, and you'll see in a couple of slides down, we had done a bulletin boards with some great quotes on diversity. So then I created grade level meetings. I've already had them with first grade, third grade, fourth grade, and I use all kinds of just amazing texts. The kids do a turn and talk activities, and it's just celebrating and learning all about their differences. We follow up the activity with a little writing activity, and they can share all about themselves, and you'll see that in that next slide. So this is just one example. This was last month with third grade, and they're able to share things they like, things they need help with, what they want to tell us about their, families. Some of them were writing their names in multiple languages and teaching the other kids, so it's awesome. Now, I think the next one, Linda. And that's the quote with all of our grades represented, and I think that was more of the third grade work that we've done. And this is just some of the books that the third grade just happened to hold, but they're all differentiated. Yeah.
So we've been doing also, in addition to all the classes, are doing a lot of multicultural projects in art and also in music. I know that Mr. McGillicuddy, I'll introduce him now, Chris McGillicuddy, he started with us last year as a long-term sub. And we were fortunate to have him join us again this year. He's been an amazing part of our community. He really, as you can see tonight, goes above and beyond. And one of the things that he and our new art teacher as well wanted to do this year was to have a culture in the arts night. So we haven't had an art show for several years. So that's coming back to Center School, and we're thrilled. So we're going to have a piece of art represented for every student. We're going to have, and I'll let you talk a little bit about the open mic. We're going to be having students performing, and we have a book sale that night as well. So it should be a really exciting event. And Mr. McGillicuddy also wanted to do a family sing-along. So that's another event that's happening on May 10th. And that will be another wonderful way for people to share songs from their cultures as well. But one of the things that we're really excited about is last year, Mr. McGillicuddy came to us and said, hey, would you be interested in bringing keyboarding to Center School? And so we checked with Ms. Whittlesey and got the go-ahead for that. And I think he turned around, he wrote grants for this and turned it around, I think, in less than 2 months?
No, it was 3
Less than
days.
that,
It was
yeah.
3 days. He had the grants written in like 3 days' time.
And had it completely funded, maybe
Yeah.
that was it, completely funded
Yeah.
within 2 months. So now at Center School, by the time kids leave, they're exposed and they're playing violin and recorders and the keyboard. And it's just amazing to go in and see the kids playing. And I think I have another picture. Oh, we forgot the art. Yes, they're doing a lot of different artwork. I jumped into the keyboard. Sorry about that.
So let's look at
Yeah.
seconds.
But I did talk about that. So there's some wonderful work, and if you want to see more, come to our Arts and Culture Night for sure. And then the next one. So this was Mr. McGillicuddy at Open House, but I love this picture. These are a bunch of our parents who got a chance to check out the keyboards. But this has been just such an exciting addition to what we're offering at Center School, and that's why we have some students here tonight and some families, because they're also very excited about playing the keyboard. But we're going to turn it over to Mr. McGillicuddy and let him share a little bit more about that program.
Hi, everyone. So I don't have a whole lot to say, but I wanted to bring the pianos to Center School because students really appreciate a physical and tactile way to engage with music and everything. It has also allowed me to really differentiate instruction. So for those students, and we have a student here tonight that's been taking piano lessons for a few years, right?
5 years.
5 years. So rather than her sitting through the basic introduction that the rest of the class is sitting through that they need, she's able to go practice on her own the music that's appropriate for her. And so I'm able to do this all the way. First graders have been taking lessons all the way through fourth grade. So yes. Arya, would you like to start? Awesome. So Arya is in first grade and she's going to play Ode to Joy. Should I move the microphone a little bit?
If you want to just direction it at the keyboard, that'd be fine. You can just push it down a little bit. Yeah, perfect.
There you go. Okay. Gemma will play Ode to Joy as well. So you've been playing for 5 years, so she'll play a couple of the pieces that she's worked on outside of school.
Sorry.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know if anyone has questions or.
Anybody have any questions?
Sorry,
That's all right.
I was just gonna ask, you mentioned you did an equity and inclusion survey for the parents. If you wouldn't mind maybe sharing it with us through the superintendent, just because one of the things we're gonna be looking at doing in the next upcoming year is a sort of culture and climate type of subcommittee, so to get some sort of idea of what kind of questions you asked and kind of feedback would be great.
Great, absolutely.
We saved it, and we have it in all those languages as well. so
English is fine with me.
We will share it with you. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you. I know you can't hear me, but just for Mr. McGillicuddy, I would like to know what grade Gemma is in. I don't think you said that.
Second grade.
Second grade? And the young lady who performed last so brilliantly, what is her name?
Emma is in fourth grade.
Fourth grade. Thank you very much.
That's great.
Thank you,
we-
Diana
any other
O'Donnell, thank you very much. Oh,
Can I ask, first of all, it's wonderful, this is like, it's truly music to be hearing about what you're doing in the classroom every day with diversity and inclusion. I remember 14 years ago, it was less time than that, walking through Center School, and somebody told me from Miss Olson's class that the way to be a great class was to accept each other's differences. And that was a fourth grader. So wonderful to see that that's what is being shared with everyone. It's not only what we share as human beings that are like in each other, but also our differences are important. And so I really appreciate that, and I think it's great to see it. The talent is amazing, and everybody has talent, and you're showing it to all of us, so thank you so much. But in addition, I'm wondering, is this something that is only Center doing it, or is it being run in the district through all of the different schools? Like you mentioned, you just went to an international fair. I know Harrington has one, and so on. But is this something that you took on this year exclusively at Center? What's going on with that?
It was really, like I said, a continuation of our work that we started last year, and Tech Day
Because
was
back day
actually
was
on
on our
our
council.
school council
Yep,
last year.
yes.
So we wanted to continue that work and get more input, and we knew when we started the work last year that we wanted to continue it. So it's just, I think all the school councils handle their time together a little differently, and we like to kind of choose a focus for our time together. And this is something that we've started that journey last year, and it's a great group, and continuing that. So, but happy to share our survey and what we've learned from our time together and next steps. I don't know exactly what they're going to be, but we're going to keep taking them.
So congratulations, it's terrific.
John?
I just want to say thank you for all the work. I really appreciate you guys coming in and being the first kids in. That's really fun. That's super fun. The first kids I've seen in here for years. So bring more kids every single time. It's the best part of the job, and we don't get to do it often enough. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, did you have something you wanted to add?
Jeff's the strong silent side.
Chris, if he needs to take down his piano, he certainly can.
Okay.
There's no right, I mean,
Yeah,
take some time to do
The
that.
superintendent was gonna put on a show for us later.
You know me, I'll break it.
You could do background music.
Thank you very much.
He literally ran out with the piano. I recommended that.
What would you tell him to do?
Background music for the meeting, like just
Oh,
like
okay.
that. Would have been nice.
All right.
All right. Next up?
Thank you. Next up on the agenda this evening, we actually invited Shannon Bischoff, who is our coordinator for social emotional learning and counseling services, to just come tonight to give a little bit of a verbal overview. Probably within the last 2 weeks or so, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, when we first kind of put out with the weekly newsletter, and then the school started pushing out information also on a new Care Solace initiative, a referral resource somewhat similar to William James, which I think you're familiar with, the program that we've had. And I wanted to just have Shannon come on board tonight and talk a little bit about the new service, how it interplays with William James. And again, I was very interested after just the first week or two of kind of hearing some of the results we're already seeing referral-wise. So welcome tonight. And if you could just give us a little overview and target audience and the purpose would be really appreciated.
Absolutely, and please feel free to send questions my way after I give you a little bit of information. Oh, I'm very short, I'm gonna lean over. First of all, that is an impossible act to follow with those kids. And Marie, you're right, everybody has talent, music is not mine, so I admire those kids so much. So changing gears a little bit, last time I was here, I shared out about a resource called Care Solace. At that point in time, it was just something that I had heard of from fellow colleagues around the state, and I was looking into it. Since then, we did bring it on board as somewhat of a pilot. We're doing from mid-March till July 1 that we'll have access to this new resource. And the purpose of it is accessibility for our families and our children and even our staff around the district in terms of accessing mental health and substance abuse treatment in the community. As we know, volume is up, resources are struggling to keep up with that need. So Care Solace is something that several districts around the state turned to when William James had to shut down. They shut down for 5 weeks. They're back up and running. I've been using William James for many, many, many years, and I plan to continue to utilize them. They're an amazing resource. A couple of differences between Care Solace and Project Interface is that Care Solace is accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whereas William James is more on a work day, so it's 9 to 5. That's an enormous difference in terms of accessibility for families. The other difference is that they're able to, if requested upon, they're able to provide somebody on the other end receiving the phone call to support a family in one of 200 different languages. So in terms of accessibility, that's just a game changer for our families. Another difference is that our staff members are able to access the portal and make a referral for a family. Sometimes making that first phone call is really challenging, especially when we're experiencing stressors and struggles. So to have one of our wonderful colleagues around the district, whether it's an administrator or one of our counselors or nurses, say, let me make that first contact for you. We're able to do that on the portal. So that is a huge, huge difference. So since we put this into practice in the last 2 weeks, and Dr. Lang, you were exactly right, it was 2 weeks ago last Friday that we brought this on board, and our administrators around the district, thank you, shared out all the resources for families to access it at home. We've had more than, I think, 116 anonymous searches on the site. We've had 16 families make referrals themselves. We've had 46 internal staff make referrals. In terms of the response that Care Solace has provided for us on behalf of our families and our staff, they've made more than 1,800 communications out to surrounding therapists and agencies on behalf of our families. So it's only been 2 weeks, and right now I can do it in real-time data, do a refresh. Out of the families that we've referred, there's been 5 successful matches with clinicians. I look at that as a success. I know it's early on, and if we're having 100 referrals, we want to see that number increase, but it's barely been 2 weeks. So I'm really pleased so far. What this also does is it provides me with real-time data that I can track. I told Dr. Lang I keep it on my dashboard daily, and I'm constantly refreshing to look for those matches. So at the end of our trial period with it, we'll sit as an admin team and we'll include our counseling and clinical psych team and look at this resource and whether or not we'd like to continue it for our families here. That being said, I really cannot say enough good things about William James. I've utilized them for many, many, many years. They were pioneers in terms of their efforts. So in the communication we're sharing out with families, we're sharing both Care Solace and William James. So I think that's it. Care Solace was wonderful. I requested that, if we're going to utilize this for a short period of time, I want it launched very quickly. So they did virtual trainings, I think a total of 6 of them for our clinical psychs, our school counselors, all of our admin, our nurses, and a couple of specialists like BCBAs or program teachers. So everyone has the ability to make those referrals on behalf of families. As we know, families may connect with different staff members more than others, so we want to give accessibility to all of our staff. And then the other thing they're doing is that they're tracking the matches. So once a family has seen a service provider, they're following up with that family to make sure it was a good match. And if not, they'll support the family in continuing that search. And then our colleagues that do the internal referrals, they can also track when that match is happening so that if it's taking a week, 2 weeks, that prompts them that they need to do check-ins with that family in the meantime. Care Solace also is doing check-ins while they're going through the process of finding a service provider for the family. I think that's about it.
If I could.
Yes.
Just kind of a question. I know, as we were kind of talking a little bit about it, it's very helpful for admin or clinicians to kind of get a sense for what the referrals are for. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about how that helps you in trying to kind of triage and figure out, what the biggest demand for services are or what particular areas?
Yeah, so Care Solace, like I said, in real-time data, they provide us with graphs. And I did share this with Jay, and I'm happy to share this in a slide with school committee. But it provides us demographics of who's accessing, whether it's children, adolescents, adults. Right now, it's about 55% adolescents in the district accessing, and a rough split with the remainder in terms of adults and children. In terms of genders, it's all different types of genders. We have our non-binary students that are accessing this support. Both male and female. So, and in terms of the ethnicities, it tracks that as well. It tracks the insurance. It does do matches based on your insurance, but it also does sliding scale. It does self-pay, and it does Mass Health as well. So again, we're looking for that accessibility for all families to make sure that we're responding to those needs. And then in terms of the number one referral right now is anxiety, and the second one is depression, and the third one is trauma. And below that is disruptive, that could be oppositional defiant, dysregulation, marital, suicide, and then bipolar in sequence of referrals. And there are a handful of referrals for substance abuse as well, for alcohol, marijuana, and inhalants.
I may have missed this. This one is only for the school system? So I know the other one was through the town and the school, was a contract, right?
Yeah, it was called Project Interface through William James College, and that had been in the town for a long time, over 10-plus years. And it's a kind of a partnership between the town, the Board of Health, and the school department. The three of us combined to pay the annual fee for that program, which really, up until the pandemic, was doing excellent work, and it still continues to do excellent work for us. I think they just reached a capacity issue after the first of the year, and there was a period of time where they weren't taking referrals. So they were shut down to basically just take care of the backlog of requests that had already come into the system. And, I really do applaud Shannon and the counseling and the psychology staff. We totally get that, and groups are overburdened at this point as far as meeting demand with clinicians, particularly in the area or outside of school. But they wanted to try to find something else to kind of fill that gap and be a backup. So that's where Shannon's experience with this Care Solace has really kind of come in and helped. So this, again, is a similar type service, a little different in how you can access it, different in some of the hours, but it just provides like another layer of option for us. I do believe William James is, again, accepting referrals.
Yes, they are.
So we'll kind of have two options now for our families to be working through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so it's both available. Great.
Dennis?
Yeah, so I assume that the service has a fee associated with it. If this is something that we feel is worthwhile, is this something we could support going forward in next year's budget and all that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll figure out what like an annual fee for the subscription type services this would be. But, certainly if it's worthwhile and it seems to be pointing in that direction, we would either reallocate funding within our local budget, I'd bring a recommendation to you, or this would also fall in line with like the ESSER funds that we're receiving. So that could help us for the next 2 to 3 years. It's not too significant a cost
I have
at all.
a quote if you'd like to know now, or if you'd rather wait, it's up to you, Jay.
Yeah, I mean.
It's roughly 16,000
give
for
some scale.
annually.
Yeah, it's
And the
not a big
prorated
number.
rate was around 3,700. So it's pretty affordable for us.
We could
heading into the
absorb
spring.
it, you know, and then a lot of times, as you indicated too, like once there is a pairing, if someone has insurance, they might access the insurance or a sliding scale or whatnot. The district isn't paying for the actual services.
No.
This is more of a kind of a find group, which will go out and actually pair you with a provider, and then the provider takes over at that point. So it's really a nominal number in the scheme of our budget, but just another layer of protection and layer of service.
Yeah, and as we head into the spring months, you know, for some of us, when we launch into spring and we have longer daylight, that's uplifting for us and we feel better. But we know in terms of tracking data over time, they're very risky months in terms of people who suffer from mental illness and depression. So when I saw Care Solace was shutting down just as we were heading into those more risky months, I really was grateful for the response to be able to bring this on board because we just want to be there when families need us the most. So far, the feedback I've gotten is very positive. And again, I'm checking it constantly to look for those matches because that's what we want to see is families being in the hands of care providers that can support and help them.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
As somebody who, you know, as an attorney, you like to help people and provide counseling. It's the same thing that happens here. What I'm getting out of this, that it seems to be really great, is that the staff and everybody else who needs to refer these folks out can be a part of it. And that is, it causes so much anxiety to a person when you can't help someone and you know that they're not able to really access that help. So I for one, think that's great. That's a great component of this program, that you can be able to continue and help out the family. That's great.
Yeah, the transparency of this dashboard is amazing. Again, you know, I like to dig into the data, so we'll be looking at it over time to make sure that those matches are happening and that, you know, we know the usage is up and it's there, but we want to make sure that there's successful connections and matches. So I definitely am happy to come back and report, you know, how that's going and families at home, I just want them to know that every week, the administrators in every building are going to be sharing out information on Care Solace. It can be translated into 15 different languages in terms of sharing out the marketing material. And then, like I said, 200 languages in terms of receiving on the other end the phone call, which is just incredible for our families.
Well, again, we just thought it was timely where this was in the newsletters recently, be able to kind of talk to it publicly for parents or community members watching at home, and then just to kind of fill you in as well on the initiative and the intended purpose.
I do have one follow-up question. How long is our trial period for in the district?
For this new product, I think through July 1st.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Exactly.
All right, thank you. Just want to make sure we're going to get through the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it'll go through the end of the year, and then we would, if we adopt it, get on like an annual cycle. So it'll be like a regular subscription service. We do July 1 to June 30.
Yeah. And this is for children that we serve in our district. It's for staff members within our district and family members of our staff as well. So adults, children. But I just want to share that out and make sure that families know that. And any staff that does a referral, it is confidential. We would not be able to see that information on our dashboard.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me
very much for
back. I
coming in.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Shannon.
Stay well, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night. All right, next up, we have a calendar update from Dr. Hirsch on our academic assessments.
Sure. So I think at the beginning of the year, when we were doing the opening of school, we talked about some of the things that we were doing in order to be successful throughout the school year. One thing that we always use that's successful is our academic assessment calendar. It's important to know when we're actually benchmarking students throughout the school year and also to align it to our grading practices so that we have enough information as we report out to parents. So as we're entering into this, we're into the fourth quarter of school. We're finishing up and now we're into the fourth quarter of school. Believe it or not, 22 days for our seniors, as it was reported earlier today. I just wanted to give you an update of the type of assessments that are continuing throughout the district and when they will be scheduled. This time of year is also the launch of MCAS, so there's many different pieces moving at the same time. So in order for staff to be able to assess internally, so that when we do get those summative assessments, we can then look at them and do the analysis over the summer to see what's been happening historically, what happened throughout the school year. And then as that information comes to us, it goes to the teachers for the next school year so that they can make adjustments in their practices. Or as we're hiring different interventionists and putting in different programming, that we're prepared for the beginning of the school year. So this is just a quick update of the internal benchmarks that we use throughout the school year, as well as the MCAS windows that we have at the middle and the high school and elementary level, and to give you an idea of what's happening in our schools between now and June. So lots of things.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Notice on, doing an Ireti pilot at the high school, is that?
Yep, so there was a pilot this year because the high school didn't have necessarily a common assessment that would give them the information prior to MCAS and for grades 9 through, we did 9 through 11 this year. And rather than doing it 3 times a year, we did it for the beginning of the year and then the end of the year to see if this is a program that they want to move forward with. So in order to determine that, we need to finish out using the programming. So their second assessment will happen between May 23rd and June 10th. And then we can take a look at the information to see if this is something we want to move forward with.
And what, ELA and math, is it?
ELA and math, so Ireti only assesses ELA and mathematics at this point. The K through 8 program has the intervention piece to it, where students can do their work during the weeks, right? So that it's almost like a stepping stone, a building block program. And then the teachers have access to the teacher toolbox, which also has additional lessons in there if they need to have an interventionist work with them, if they're working with a small group. There's videos, there's other activities for students to do on specific standards within that toolbox. The high school does not have that component. They have not built that component for Ireti, and that is something I know in speaking to some of the high school teachers, they would love Ireti to create, but they're just not there yet. Right now, we're literally using it as a benchmark, a diagnostic to see how kids started the school year off and how they're ending the school year.
So once we have this data, what is done with it? You know, so in terms of, do the classroom teachers get to see the data on their students? How does that drive instruction or some other type of intervention?
So it's immediate. So as the students take the diagnostic, the teachers have their current students. We, of course, have like a district level. Principals have their school level. They can look at the team. They can see if we're noticing some differences in the standards. We look at the previous years and the current year students, and then we also try to do it vertically to follow a class. Because when you're testing students, you have a new class coming in for the next year. But then as those teachers receive students, they have the previous year data. And then what we do is we correlate it to, obviously, our MCAS and any other assessments that we have. And then as a district, and it's been taking us a little while to do it because it's a unique system, we're trying to build district dashboards so that we're going one place to look for all the data that we have, because we house it in different places. Certain teachers have access to information that others may not. So as we build those dashboards, we'll then have a larger picture. That would include grades. That also includes attendance. So you can pull up even just a student and have all their information in one place.
Does anybody have any questions?
So, just one question here on this. We've done this for we're gonna be completing 1 year of this trial at the high school level.
Right.
So at this point, we don't really know how it's being received, or, we haven't done surveyed staff or done any surveying of students or anything like that to see what the input is in terms of Ireti, right?
Yeah, we need to complete it in order to find out if it was, because we would want to say, right, we might see right off the bat, this is not something we want to use, or maybe not with all the grades, and then have conversations with teachers around it. It's a simple program in the sense of if we want it, we can get it quickly. It's not as if we don't have this information right this second, that we couldn't then purchase it at a later time. So in order to understand if it's worth it, or it's giving us the information we want, we have to complete it.
Okay.
Anybody else? I just have one other question. Sometimes the terms diagnostic and assessment are used interchangeably, but they really aren't. And I was wondering if you could kind of, I know it's It's a fine line, but I was wondering if you could explain the difference.
Okay, so a diagnostic has an adaptive feature to it. So when we go into the diagnostic, it's testing the students at their current grade level standards. But as the students take it, it will be adaptive. So if they're finding that a student's really struggling with a standard at their grade level, it can drop it down for them, or it can go higher to find out where that student is. So when we receive the final diagnostic, which is a benchmark for us, it will tell us what grade level that student's performing at. And it is an assessment in the sense that we get an idea of where students, what needs they have, and then how we're going to then instruct them. So the difference between Ireti is that it gives them a My Path process. So as it assesses them, if it puts me at whatever level I'm at, it knows what I need for instruction. It then gives me lessons based on what level I'm on. So if I happen to be a 7th grade student, and let's just say I'm testing out at a 6th grade standard, it's going to give me lessons because it's adaptive like that at the 6th grade level to help me build up towards that 7th grade standard. If I'm in 7th grade and I'm testing at the 8th grade level, it's going to give me 8th grade lessons so that I can continue my journey through learning about that standard, not just be stagnant at just 7th grade standards that I've already mastered. And then as students test out of the program, so when you start getting into 7th and 8th grade, some of these kids have met those standards and then some. They're done using the program. We give them another program, which is called IXL, if they need some, because that goes up to grade 12, to let them continue on with the program. But it does stop if a student has met the standard after 8th grade. So it doesn't make them continue to do 7th grade work when they're actually probably doing 9th grade work. We move them on to a different program.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Okay, next up, our potential middle school merger realignment working group.
Yep.
Verbal update?
Verbal update. You're doing a very good job, Donna.
Yes.
No, just a quick verbal update for you tonight, because I am going to start to put out, hopefully next week's a little quieter with the vacation, I can get caught up in a couple of things. Message some information out to families around some work, our working group that we actually put together back at the end of February, that's been meeting throughout the month of March, heading into April, to take a look at, as a result of the Durham-Whittier study that we had done in January. Remember, we had talked about moving forward with the MSBA application for new middle school. When they were doing some of the different work with the school level and even parents and students, one of the topics that came out is some equity issues between the two middle schools, some alignment issues between the two middle schools. The fact that we're actually, there's some inefficiency, and this is also coming out even in the strategic planning work that we're doing, which will become more public within the next month or so, but just some inefficiencies in the operation of the two schools, because in essence, and I'm just giving the big picture today, we're basically running two schools within one building. So our 5th and 6th grade grade levels are really running more of an elementary type schedule. And even like when it comes to licensure and things like that for staff, it's an elementary staff implementing that program. When the kids then hit 7th and 8th grade, we break up by specialists. Each teacher teaches one subject. And we're actually running a 7th and 8th grade schedule and a 5th and 6th grade schedule within the same building. However, they share certain core teachers. So they share special ed teachers, they may share fine arts and music and phys ed and things along those lines. But because there are different minutes and different schedules at play, it creates inefficiency because you don't have availability of staffing at all times. So one of the things that Durham-Whittier had actually suggested we take a look at is, in the long term, we'd love to do a new middle school project. And again, that's still in the works, and this is to be determined years from now. But, would it be that mega middle school? Would it be a new, 6, 7, 8? Would it be a new 4, 5, 6? So we have to kind of take a look at that. But they said in the interim, a new school is 6 to 8 to 10 years down the line. Do you want to keep having inefficiency in the district if you could do some things to tweak or have there be some better alignment, better equity between the two schools? So one of the things that was recommended is we physically are operating the same strands. So when we say a strand, it means the number of grade levels, number of classrooms at a grade level. So we have 8 at each of our middle schools, 8 5s, 8 6s, 8 7s, and 8 8s. We have the space to actually combine the two schools and break them off and have one school be all 5, 6, one school be all 7, 8 in the town, and then actually be able to just run 2 separate schools on 2 separate schedules, create some equity between the 2 buildings because you would have students within classes. We put together a group of teachers from each, and admin from each of the buildings. We actually had a grade level rep from each school on the group that's been working with me. We've been doing some pretty good work to just take a look at what would actually happen if we did this. If we actually merged the 2 schools, we created an environment where after, say, 4th grade, all 5th and 6th grade kids in the district would go to, say, Parker, and then everyone would go up to 7th and 8th for McCarthy, and then you go off to the high school. What would that do for teachers? So we're in the process of kind of vetting this out with staff. But it does, at its first glance, it creates some equity between the 2 buildings. It helps with enrollment because now you just have a clear feeder pattern. You don't have, we talked 2 meetings ago about that issue with Byam and the Harrington families that feed to McCarthy instead of Parker. It alleviates that. It creates equitable class size across both schools. It provides for teachers to be able to have more classrooms at a particular grade level to even spread students out amongst. So like right now, we have to sometimes put groupings of, say, special education students or L students together because of service requirements and the availability of, say, the special ed teacher or the L teacher. If you had more classrooms to spread them out amongst, then you could actually have specifically grade 5 or grade 6, say, special ed teachers or L teachers, you could, with the scheduling, just create, again, some operational efficiencies and potentially spread or dilute a little bit the composition of the classroom so that they were more similar. Teachers would have more colleagues to be working with when it came to professional development or planning time. So there are a lot of interesting things that we're looking at, and I have to say overall, the results of the group have been very positive so far. We're at the point where we took a look at our comparable school districts, both through DESE and even just our contiguous districts in the area, and there are 5 different districts that actually have that pure 5, 6, 7, 8 model. So we've reached out to those districts to actually arrange a time for them to talk to our staff and let our staff ask some questions about how it works and whatnot. So that'll be taking place right after we get back from April vacation. And then I'm going to be messaging out to the families and staff, although the staff kind of know, but the families and staff and PTOs at McCarthy and Parker, that I'd like to have a couple of opportunities in May and early June before we lose people for the summer to dialogue with them and to have some kind of little forums to talk about this. So just wanted to use tonight's meeting as kind of a precursor to get that dialogue out there in case people are hearing about it. The staff obviously are talking about it, so sometimes, family members start to hear as well. Again, there's a lot to be decided. There's a lot of logistics involved. But I have to say, everyone's been working very hard on it. I think people are very open, staff-wise, and they see the benefit of potentially taking a look at this. And my next step would be to kind of have a similar framework with parents. So that'll be taking place, again, in the May and early June timeframe, but wanted to kind of give you the heads up that this was coming down the road, and also the public that was watching so that they could have a sense of what the messaging that I will be sending out might talk about. And we did talk, even with the staff, we said, even if everyone loves this, we're not doing this next year. So don't be worried.
Okay, that was my next question. Do we have a timeline for this?
Yeah, we can pull off small miracles, but we're not doing that this time. So, the earliest we would implement this is really a year from now. So it would not be the 22-23 school year, it would be 23-24.
Okay.
We all think that's pretty reasonable. I think timeline-wise, if we receive positive feedback from, say, parents in the May time period, we'd come back and actually talk to us in the June, early July time period. And I think we'd actually want to make that kind of decision if we were going to go in this direction at that time, because we would then probably work with a group similar to like a DM group who's working with us on strategic planning to come in and actually work with our staff over the course of the whole school year on transition and what it would mean, and really putting together good pairings and making this as smooth as we possibly could. So we're definitely at least a year away. No concern about this happening for the fall, but we do need to start the conversations now. We don't want to scare anyone, but we were very clear with the staff about that, and I think they were comfortable with that.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I was going to highly recommend on the PTOs to include the elementaries, not only the middle school PTOs, especially if you're looking at transitioning, in 23, 24, third and fourth grade currently in the elementaries will be impacted. I think it would be very important to include them.
What I can certainly do is we can open this up to anyone. They can be like town-wide forums.
Yeah.
I can make sure we get messaging out to all the schools. We
Right.
might host them at the 2 middle schools,
Yeah.
but anyone could be welcome to come, particularly with the feeder groups. But we'll invite anyone. There'll be open
Yeah.
meetings.
And making sure Council of Schools is notified to get the word out.
Yeah, no, we can definitely
great.
do that. We'll push it so that people can have options.
Terrific.
I'm just glad you're, sorry.
Catch it? No, good.
No, I apologize.
I'm sorry.
Would you like to go?
No, I was actually going to call on Dennis. He
That's great, John. Yeah.
I was just really excited. I was gonna say, no, I'm just glad you're exploring, options, that's all. I think we have a lot of problems to solve, so that was all I, after.
Yeah.
I was gonna, I think it's a great idea. You talked about some inefficiency. Financially, is there a benefit to it, or is there a drawback to it? Is there anything you see that's
No, I
gonna be any
mean,
extra costs associated with it, or?
right. I truly don't know yet at this point. And the tack that we took, even with the faculty meetings on this, is I'm not doing this at all to try to save money. So this isn't like an efficiency type thing where, we're actually trying to reduce staff or reduce operational costs or whatnot. We're assuming the same staff for one building, would be just housed in a different building. And when we really get a little deeper into like the scheduling and whatnot, we might know if we're either gonna need an extra, say, an L staff or a sped staff or a specialist to make the schedule work in the schools.
That's what I was
We
kind of
don't
referring to.
really
Okay.
kind of know.
Yep.
And I mean, that is actually, and again, on the DM group work that we're going to get some updates on, they have a whole niche that really works with, say, like scheduling and efficiency to try to really bolster your academic programs and make sure that they really align. So it really does line up with, I know Jeff and Maria know this, but it
Yeah.
lines up with a lot of their
Yep.
work, which I think we'll start to be talking about soon.
Yes. Yes, I was gonna say that, and Jeff, we've been listening to some of these things on the, the whole planning that we're doing here. And definitely scheduling, when you said that in terms of scheduling, it has a huge impact on a school system. And I am truly realizing this through these meetings that we're attending. So I was glad to see that that's a huge consideration in this whole plan.
Right.
And I like the idea of the students coming together as a community right out of elementary.
I like the feeder system.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I'll join in.
I think
on
it's a
those.
good idea.
Am I invited or am I not invited?
To what?
One of the working
Oh,
groups?
it'll be a public meeting.
know.
I mean, anyone can go.
Of course I would be there. Jeez.
Right. No, I mean, go ahead.
No control.
Day one, you'll get there. You'll.
You need the hammer?
Actually, what I was going to say, with regards to Maria's comment about including some of the younger grades, is because I know that as the kids are approaching middle school, not everyone's staying in district, right? They may choose to pursue other options. So I do think it's important that we include that group, as they look at, what it is they want the next step to be for their child. So,
Right.
I'm glad you brought that
Yeah.
up, because I do think it's important.
Yeah. No, we can push it out to anyone, really, and we can get input from anyone. Like I
Including
said.
John?
What's that?
Including John.
John's welcome to come as well.
Stand outside the door and like.
All right, anybody
Tonight?
else? Jeff, did you have anything you want to add?
No, thanks.
Okay.
It was a lot easier when you were just watching me give Dennis a hard time. Now you're on the other side.
I'd like to thank you for that, John.
More to come, but just wanted to kind of put it out there tonight as we're going to start messaging.
All right. All right, our anticipated last day of school.
Dr. Hirsch?
Cautionary tale today.
I'm gonna get so many texts after this section. Go ahead.
I'm sure you will. So typically, in our past few school years, besides our COVID years, we actually build into our schedule at least 6 snow days, inclement weather, electricity, you name it. We've been having it these past few years. So the prior year school calendar is always set. So back in December 1st, 2020 is when you set the 2021-2022 calendar for the school year, which actually had 6 days built into it for any type of school closures. So to date, we have used 2 closure dates, full closure dates for the entire school district. Yes, the story continues because there's one outlier school. And that we have to, by the regulations from DESE, make sure that we've used at least 185 days, which means there are 3 remaining days between April and June before we can no longer have to make up those days. So because we've only used 2 days, there's still 3 outstanding days that if there were a school closure for any event between now and June 1st, we would have to exhaust those 3 days before we would then not have to make up any more days. So as of now, with those 2 days that we've used, tentatively, the last day of school for students in the district for all schools except Byam Elementary School would be Thursday, June 16th, half-day for students, full-day for staff, and then for staff, half-day on June 17th. If your student goes to the Byam Elementary School because they had 1 additional day, however, they only have 2 days to get to the ones you don't have to make up, so I mean, there's a lot that could happen. Their last day of school is June 17th, which is a half-day for students, full-day for staff. And then last day for staff, half-day, is Tuesday, June 21st. And that is because June 20th is a federal holiday, Juneteenth, which we are taking off this school year. Last year, we didn't need to recognize it, but the law is that we have to recognize it now. So it seems a little bit further out, but that's because there's a holiday that the district would actually be closed down.
Okay, so Sarah, you want to be a hero at the high school in your senior class, so I'll ask the question for you. Do seniors get those 3 days back? What's their last day?
Their last day is still in 22 days. Seniors do not need to make up snow days. That's why they tend to lobby us intently when there's some type of weather system happening during their senior year. Dr. Lang gets a lot of phone calls, Facebook announcements, everything that they can do. So seniors do not need to make up the days.
This,
Look how happy she is about it. She's stoked.
Seniors just have to be out, their graduation has to be within 12 days of the last day of school without snow days. There's a lot of complication in there.
This is it? Okay.
Thank you for the update. That's the one question I've gotten at all the PTO meetings I've gone to is, when's the last day, when's the last day?
It is, prior to COVID, we used many days, and if you remember, we had to add additional time onto the school day, so typically we're not in this we haven't been in just using 2 days for almost like 6 years now. So,
amazing.
and I think a lot of people believe that as of April 1st, you don't have to make them up, but that's only if you've exhausted your additional 5 days.
So we're going to hope for good weather for the rest of the school year, and then get the kids out Thursday and Friday that week, which I think would be good.
Oh, and the large majority of the town lost power last week.
Yeah.
What's that?
We had a major power outage.
Friday morning.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, we were about to wake you up.
Yeah.
My wife was like, they better not close that school. They better not close that school.
Honestly, it was.
It was,
Only a couple
yeah.
minutes.
I
Really?
can't
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
about this.
No,
I'm literally
yeah.
like,
Were you there?
Brian?
Oh, yeah.
We were out for a while.
Yeah,
we were out.
We were out, we have a couple minutes, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and a lot of people.
And it was South Row and Byam.
Yeah,
that were
it was
Always
bad.
buy it.
Yeah.
There's always fun.
So it was Byam.
All right, thank you. Moving on, we are taking a look at our policy updates with regards to public comment at school committee meetings and guidelines for public comment. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis to finish this up for us.
Yeah, so we kind of took a look at this last meeting and looked at, just in lieu of the fact that we're coming out of COVID and we had specific protocols for COVID in terms of public input, but we don't really need to be as stringent to kind of go back to what we had before. And so we just took a look at our policies from the past and just kind of made some tweaks just in the first policy, just kind of clarifying who can speak at public input in terms of residents, parents and guardians, students, employees of the district, et cetera. So the changes are in the bold print. Everything else that's there is the old policy. And then with the procedures, just kind of, again, clarifying, having people register to speak, and was asked to kind of give a deadline of registering by no later than 12 o'clock on the day of the meeting. So we've added that in there. And then, again, tweaking before the length, I believe, that we had was no longer than 20 minutes. I think we extended to 30 minutes. And then at the end, just talk about having a second public input comment session if time allowed, and what would be involved in that particular. So those are the changes, are all the bullet point, and then just kind of some clarification from last meeting. So if anybody has any questions or comments or.
So So the only question that I had, Dr. Lang and I talked about it today, is that in the policy, it refers to citizen, and in the guidelines, it refers to the residents of Chelmsford, okay? And just to make clear that, for our purposes, citizens in the policy part is what we're stating clearly in the guidelines, right?
Yeah, and I think just because it is kind of a combination of some things we've added with our old policy, so just, just terminology-wise, just to use different terms, but I think we have the same meaning there.
You mean definition of citizens? For me, citizen means,
Yeah.
means somebody who is a citizen by naturalization or birth.
Right.
If a person is a green card holder or just, does this mean
Resident.
resident?
Right.
I think
Of the
residents.
That's just why we put
district?
resident.
I think
Right.
it should be resident.
So if you look at BEDH, that handout, and you look at the third paragraph, it says that in order that all citizens who wish to be heard,
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, that should be residents.
All residents.
Yeah,
it's residents of the district.
It does say in the second paragraph.
in the second
It
paragraph,
says
right?
citizens of the district, and I think the intention there is to be, the district is Chelmsford Public Schools, so citizens of the Chelmsford Public Schools.
I think her concern is some stakeholders might be like an LPR, or they might be like,
Right.
refugee status, or, right, they're not citizens necessarily. They're residents of
Right.
Chelmsford, and they're stakeholders, right,
Right.
but they're not.
I don't think anyone objects to it being anything related to Chelmsford. I think the intention was to really have this be limiting to either you have to be a
Yeah.
resident of Chelmsford, you have to live in Chelmsford,
Residents.
you have to have a child attend the Chelmsford
Right.
Public Schools, or you could be an employee of the school system and not, you just work here, not live here.
Right.
Those individuals would be allowed to participate.
Right, and so the point that I was making, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no. Citizen does have,
Citizen has a really
it
specific,
has a terminology and it has a perception.
those are legal definition.
Yeah, it's just, people, it's interesting how folks sometimes don't really get it. When we don't automatically become citizens just by being residents of this country or living in this country. And in our own system, we have many folks who are not citizens of the United States. Okay?
Participate.
And you can't, I don't know of anybody who's a citizen of a town.
Right.
I think this has a meaning. I think the meaning that's intended is that the person have a connection by residing in the town or working in the town, as you said. And then they were considered citizen of the town. Maybe we could just define it.
Or do we just change any reference to citizen to resident?
I think resident,
But some of our staff
the
may not be
Employees are not
residents.
residents.
resident or stakeholders, I don't know. We'll just have to figure out a word. We should throw it to Andy, because I agree with her. Citizen's a really specific definition.
Actually, you have it in the first sentence of BEDH, you could just use that.
Which one?
BEDH, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph, number 1. It says, any resident of the town of Chelmsford, parent, guardian of Chelmsford Public Schools, student or employee of Chelmsford Public Schools.
That's the definition.
Yeah, but do you want to use that as opposed to resident?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
As long as it's
I think that was the
clear.
intent,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's clear.
right,
Yeah.
right,
that's the intent.
yeah.
I understand the objection of the word citizen.
Yeah.
That's a really specific,
It's very specific.
right.
Do you want to use that particular line, or do you want to use a word that would include,
No, that's fine. Where would you use it, though? Where would else? Where would you put it?
in order that all citizens, right there, not citizen?
I don't think a lot of people are reading our policies too, right? But I mean, because not everybody I read policy because I'm super cool. But like, if you were an LPR, right, a legal permanent resident, like, and be like, oh, it says citizens, maybe it's not for people like me. Like, it's just not a very.
Yeah.
Right, and actually, the reason I had brought it up too is because I wanted to make sure that when we use that word citizens, that's a great point, but also that people who are not necessarily affiliated with the town or the school district in any way, wouldn't use that as a loophole to be able to come and, speak at our meetings about topics that are not necessarily relevant to what is happening in the district or the needs of our students and families,
I agree with that.
so.
It's a good
So
point.
would you actually want to like write out the whole thing where it would say, in order that any resident of the town of Chelmsford, parent, guardian, employee of the thing, and every word says citizens, include those like 2 or 3
Yes.
sentences? as a definition.
Yeah, it's specific.
We can do that, or you can just say defined as. Citizen herein is defined as. It's whatever you decide, but
But is there a hang-up about using the word citizen in general?
Yeah.
I think there is.
I don't think you should be using that, yeah.
Just, use the.
That's the old MASC policy.
With several
Yeah.
levels
No,
of
I
like.
know.
The terms they use, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I recognize that was a MASC policy, and then ours was the guidelines. So we spelled it out a little bit more clearly. MASC uses the word citizen, but we can certainly change that.
We're several steps away from the Constitution and the Chelmsford School Committee.
So do we want to do another rewrite, or we just want to just go with a?
There is actually one other question
Amendment
that I
to-
did have too. One of the statements that we make at the beginning of the meeting is around emails. And I noticed that there was nothing in here about that.
It is in the comments, I think in the very last part, upon request, written
Oh, right,
comments
right,
received, so I added that in there as well.
Okay, yes. So my question is this. One of the things that we had talked about in the last meeting was that any emails that we would get would have to be before, right?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that we clarified.
Yeah,
that.
no, I added that in.
Yeah, because it really is hard to attend to both.
Yeah.
So, okay, great.
All right, so do we
There's
want,
the chair talking now, Dennis.
I know.
Yeah, there you go.
Do we want
it
to approve it with just an amendment to change citizen to the more specific definition?
Friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment.
So,
I can just cut and paste and incorporate that throughout the document if you want.
You made it sound like so much work. You just copy and paste it.
No, it's just
I'm just
one
go-
word, it's like 2 sentences, but I can just do that.
So sensitive.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff, I'll take a motion, please.
Well, I just.
He's gonna-
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I
I
apologize.
don't comment often. It's just that, and I'm sure you saw the numbering at the end, we have 2 3s and 2 4s
I did not see the numbering.
at the last part of the policy.
Oh,
Look at you.
Hey, I read this stuff,
Nice.
just don't remember.
We'll fix that too.
yeah, I can fix that.
Not to be nitpicky, but.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion, Jeff?
I make a motion to accept the revised and updated policy BEDH, public comment at school committee meetings, and BEDHE, guidelines for public comments, with the correction to the term citizen, and the rest as presented.
Second.
Okay,
Dennis got you.
any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'll get you someday.
All right,
Keep it spicy.
next up, it looks like we have some field trips for approval.
Yep, you have 3 field trips before you. The first one is at Chelmsford High School, field trip for 2 students who qualified for the National DECA competition, and that's in Atlanta, Georgia, April 23rd to 27th. We have a second, or 2 field trips for Parker. We're kind of getting towards the end of the year, so you're going to start to see some of these. But the first one is for 6th grade students to go to a virtual STEM event in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's not overnight, but it's out of state for the day, and then they'll come back later on that day. That's on May 10th. And then the Parker Middle School, I forgot the word school, but Parker Middle School, going to Canopy Lake Park, their 8th grade trip. And this is a one-dayer, but it's to Salem, New Hampshire, because Canopy's in Salem. So that's on June 15th. But we'd recommend your approval of the 3 trips.
Can we do all 3 together?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion that the committee approve the 3 presented out-of-state field trips.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Get the next one.
All right. Do we have any liaison reports tonight?
Yep. You do too, right?
Yes, you go first.
You want me to go? Okay. So the first one is McCarthy PTO did meet, and Recycle Day
Thank you.
or Junk Day, a lot of people want to know this, is May 14th
They actually do, yeah.
this year, okay?
Maria, I'm sorry. Can we work with the schools to get a flyer out on Chelmsford News? I actually
They're
heard.
getting it out, and
Thank
they're
you.
gonna put it out.
Thank you so
They have
much.
said that they will do exactly that. And it's gonna all come out, the publicity is all going out this coming week, but it's May 14th. The other great piece of news from McCarthy PTO, that's Idol is coming back, and that's also on May 14th. And that's always a great show. I remember when Sarah was part of Idol. She played Dory one time. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, she was terrific at that.
Jeff, unpleasant memories, huh?
I remember this.
You would too.
South Row also met. Sorry, Harrington. Sorry about this. Harrington met. They have their 4th grade send-off is June 10th. The weather will permitting. They have other days if it's not on that day. They'll have the yearbook signing, a DJ, ice cream truck is coming by. They have a calendar raffle fundraiser. This was amazing. It raised over $13,000. That is amazing. And their readathon is ongoing right now. Their goal is to get a book vending machine in the school. That sounds kind of amazing. And they're tying the whole thing to Pride. That's really going well. So congratulations to them.
Just real quick, so I do not have an update now, but the BIAM PTA meeting is tomorrow, so I'll be getting an update for next week.
The high school PTO, there is a prom committee. There will be an after-prom breakfast this year. The committee is meeting this Thursday, 7 o'clock?
It's at
At the
7
high
p.m.
school. Any parent, anyone interested in joining and helping out, please reach out to Hannah Barker. And you can reach Hannah at the following email address, chspto2022@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Also, the Alumni Association, they will not be having a presentations of the scholarships this year, but what they have planned is for those students who are receiving scholarships, they'll receive the check in the mail, and the week before they receive a check, they'll receive a letter letting them know that they will be receiving a check in the mail, so they can look forward to that. And the All Sports Boosters Club, if you go to their website, they have an excellent website, their scholarships, they have 15 $1,000 scholarships, and they're also taking care of the Emily Meyerson Scholarship this year. So the application is right online, you can download it and send it in, and the deadline's May 20th.
I have a couple, Center School was here tonight. One of the things interesting, how they commented during the meeting, how lifting the COVID restrictions really improved the function of the school. Way more flexibility in scheduling, they could start planning for the normal end of the year, allows for live enrichments, and just kind of the overall feeling, the climate's been better. He said the kids have been very, very respectful of one another in terms of whether they choose to wear masks or not. So it was really nice to hear that in the meeting. They're also very excited in that the playground equipment's been ordered. So hopefully they'll be breaking ground in May on the playground. They're very thankful again for the money that we were able to give towards that, along with the money the PTO raised. The PTO itself had raised $50,000 towards the playground. So
Wow.
they did a great job in terms of fundraising themselves. And then along with speaking of fundraising, they just had their Chase to Chelmsford raffle, and that raised over $20,000. They weren't able to do it live again, but they had their calendar raffle, and again, it's a huge event for them, and they've done really well. And they're involved with McCarthy and the recycling day on the 14th.
Yes.
So they're getting ready for that. I also went to the CHIPS PTO meeting. They just keep chugging along. Great group. They just, seems they always have enrichment activities for the kids. They always are planning that. I'd love to be on their staff. It seems they have a staff appreciation like every other week. And lunches and ice cream trucks, but it is a great group, and they're just an energetic group and a fun group. They got a whole bunch of stuff planned for the end of the year, with spirit weeks and field days and touch a truck, and so it's great to go to their meetings as well. So
Great, thank you. I just wanted to mention, as we round out the liaison reports, we're coming to the end of the year. And this is the time when, the PTO boards are looking for volunteers to step up to, become the new PTO officers. And I know that in talking to some of the groups that I'm a liaison to, Chelmsford Friends of Music, for example, getting volunteers has been very, very difficult. So I would, encourage people or ask people to think about volunteering. It really is a wonderful experience. And, the more people we have, I think the less work, for everyone involved, but they add the PTOs and all of these organizations that we're liaisons to add so much to the school district. I would hate to see them, not have parents involved. And because, as I said, I think that it's a very important function that they serve, and having parents on board is a very important process in terms of making the whole school culture what it is. So think about it and, reach out to your PTO presidents or any of these organizations who, may be struggling right now to get people to lead us into next year. All right, anyone have any new items for our upcoming agenda? Yes?
So one of the things I wanted to bring up, we had got a request to, the town of Chelmsford had passed the Chelmsford Land Acknowledgement Proclamation. I don't know if you saw that. There was an email from Latoya and the Diversity Committee to read that. Latasha, I'm sorry.
Natasha.
Hold on, reading the names. Okay. And so I wanted to see if we get that as I think that should be an agenda item. So.
I wonder if we could give Sarah, first of all, I wanted to thank Sarah because she ran a really incredible website geared towards definitely all voters, but I think our younger voters in town. And I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that, and is it part of a club through, how does this work through the high school?
It's a part of the Civic Action Club at the high school, so we work to send out the survey and put that together.
It was amazing. So I really, really wanted to thank you for doing that on behalf of all the voters in the town, the citizens of Chelmsford. Because only citizens can vote.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, yes.
I just wanted to remind everybody too, I know our next meeting is the 26th, town meeting is the day before, 25th, and we've got a bunch of school items on it, right? We have the budget.
Yeah.
We have the account,
Yes.
the fields, right, is that?
No, yeah, we have the budget, which is the big one.
yeah.
We have the capital,
Yeah.
which is the second big one. We have the special ed, the special reserve fund.
Yeah. And then are they gonna do something up with the tennis courts?
Oh, the tennis courts are
Yeah.
another one that kind of affect the property. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's listed. I think it's its own item.
Yeah.
Maybe right
Okay.
after the capital, because it's kind of a capital
Yeah.
project. Yeah, so we definitely have 3 or 4. It's going to be a busy night. at
School heavy agenda.
Right.
Hopefully it'll all be done in one night, but I don't think so. Hopefully.
One other thing.
Yes.
Is anybody going to the Day on the Hill virtual event on Thursday? I registered, so
I will not be attending. It's a weird.
it's like 6 hours during the day, so I'm gonna attend whatever I can.
Right, so you should go to the MASC website, and you can register. It's still a virtual event.
Yep, virtual.
I think that they're hoping to be back in person next year. Yeah, I would encourage people to definitely take a look at if it works out for people's schedules. Absolutely. It's always nice to be able to visit with our reps when we're in person. It's been nice to see them. I know that we've reached out to them quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, so, yeah, if people can attend, that would be great. The other thing too is, one of the things that I was going to include on one of our next upcoming agendas is what some of the legislative priorities are for MASC. Some of them are pertinent to us and some are not, but I think it is important that we are aware, especially as we're talking to our representatives, as that is a big part of our job, the advocacy piece with our state and federal government.
This is not new for the agenda, but what we had talked at the beginning in terms of continuing on with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, I think we need to get that formed and really get that going. That would be important this year.
All right, anything else? All right, we're now at the second public input part of our meeting. I don't see anybody here, so I am assuming that there won't be anybody coming to have any input at this particular time. Have we received any emails? This will be our last time, okay? All right, great. With that, I do want to say thank you all very much for your patience. It's very strange sitting in this seat, and I appreciate your patience and your indulgence as I try to get my feet underneath me and work my way through this, so thank you very much.
Good job, Donna.
Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.